Let me ask you something. If someone spoke to you the way you often speak to yourself, would you consider that person a friend or a bully? It's a strange thing. Most people go through life being far harsher on themselves than anyone else ever could be. We carry an inner critic that whispers, or sometimes shouts, things we'd never dare say to someone we love. You're not enough. You'll never get this right. What's wrong with you? And yet we let it play on repeat, day after day. But here's the deeper truth. Self-talk isn't just background noise. It's the script that quietly directs your entire life. The tone of your inner voice influences how your brain functions, how your energy flows, how you respond to failure, and whether you rise or retreat when life tests you. Think of your self-talk as the atmosphere you live in. If it's full of doubt, you'll shrink. If it's full of pressure, you'll burn out. But if it's full of steady encouragement, even when life feels uncertain, something changes. You begin to breathe differently. You begin to move differently. You begin to live differently. That's the purpose of this video. This isn't about magical thinking or repeating empty affirmations. It's about reclaiming authorship over your internal narrative, about learning to speak to yourself with the same clarity, compassion, and calm authority that the Stoics once taught. Because as Marcus Aurelius wisely said, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. If your thoughts are bitter, your soul will reflect that. But if your thoughts are steady, kind, and grounded, so too will be your life. Over the next few minutes, we're going to explore how intentional self-talk can literally rewire your brain. Not in theory, but in practice. I'll walk you through insights grounded in ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience. And at the end, I'll invite you into a 3-day challenge, just 3 days, to start shifting the way you speak to yourself and, as a result, shift the way you experience everything. Because sometimes the most profound change doesn't come from the outside. It comes from a softer, wiser voice within. So are you ready to meet that voice? Let's begin. Part 1. The power of self-talk in shaping your reality. If you've ever caught yourself saying, "I always mess things up," or "I'm just not good enough," then you already know this truth firsthand. Your inner voice can either lift you or quietly dismantle you from the inside. Self-talk isn't just a whisper in your mind. It's a force. It shapes your emotional landscape, influences your decisions, and colors how you handle challenges. The way you speak to yourself during hard moments often determines whether you break down or break through. Think about it. When life gets messy, when you lose a job, get rejected, or simply feel lost, what does your inner voice say? Does it add fuel to the fire with blame and shame? Or does it offer something more useful, like, "You're still learning," or "This doesn't define you"? That subtle shift changes everything. The Stoics knew this well. Marcus Aurelius, writing centuries ago in the chaos of his empire, reminded himself, and now us, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. He wasn't being poetic. He was being precise. Your thoughts are not passive. They are active architects of your lived experience. And this is where real transformation begins. Not by changing the world around you, but by changing the way you speak to yourself within. If you want to build a stronger, calmer, more resilient self, start by tuning into your inner dialogue. Become aware of the words that repeat the most. Are they kind? Are they helpful? Are they even true? When you catch a negative thought like, "I'll never get this right," don't argue with it. Reframe it. Replace it with, "I'm still figuring this out, and that's okay." That small reframe may seem simple, but it shifts the energy. It moves you out of shame and into self-leadership. There are practical tools to help with this. Try daily affirmations, not as wishful thinking, but as steady reminders of who you're becoming. Visualize yourself acting with confidence, grace, and strength. And most importantly, practice self-compassion. Here's a powerful exercise. Next time you're struggling, pause and ask yourself, if someone I deeply love were going through this, what would I say to them? Then say that to yourself. Why is it so easy to be kind to others, but so brutal to ourselves? What if your healing began the moment you stopped speaking to yourself like a failure and started speaking to yourself like a friend? Over time, this shift in tone becomes your emotional foundation. You stop being your own enemy. You become your own ally. And that changes everything. Part 2. Your thoughts create biochemical reactions. Here's something we don't often talk about. Your thoughts aren't just quiet background noise. They're chemistry. They're electricity. They are literally shaping your body, your energy, and how you experience your day, moment by moment. Every time you speak to yourself, whether in frustration, doubt, or encouragement, your brain listens, and it responds with chemicals. Negative self-talk, for instance, increases cortisol, the stress hormone. You've probably felt it. A few anxious thoughts spiral, and suddenly your shoulders are tight, your chest is heavy, and your mind can't focus. That's not weakness. That's biology. Your body is trying to survive a threat, even if the only threat is your inner critic. Now on the flip side, positive and empowering self-talk triggers the release of dopamine and serotonin. These aren't just feel-good chemicals, they enhance motivation, clarity, and even immune function. So no, this isn't just about thinking happy thoughts. It's about understanding that the way you think physically alters the way you live. Let me give you an example. A client I once coached, let's call her Sarah, was preparing to pitch her startup to investors. The night before, she couldn't sleep. Her mind kept looping. What if I freeze? What if I'm not impressive enough? Her heart raced. She felt exhausted before the meeting even started. We didn't change her slides. We changed her story. The next morning, instead of repeating fears, she began repeating truths. I've built something meaningful. I'm here to share, not to impress. I belong in this room. And with that internal shift, her body relaxed. She spoke clearly. She connected. She walked out with 2 new backers. That's not magic. That's mindset. And the Stoics were way ahead of us on this. Epictetus famously said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." What he meant is that your internal response, your interpretation, is the true architect of your experience. And when you respond with calm, with clarity, with grounded self-talk, you regain control over your physiology, not just your psychology. So how do we apply this? Let's talk practice, not theory. 1. Start your day with intention. Before your phone, before the headlines, speak to yourself on purpose. It can be simple. I am grounded. I move through today with purpose. I'm not here to be perfect. I'm here to grow. 2. Reframe stress in real time. When something goes wrong, and it will, catch the spiral. Instead of saying, this ruins everything, try, this is a detour, not a dead end. I can handle this. It takes practice, but it rewires your nervous system over time. 3. End your day with a win scan. Before sleep, reflect on 3 small wins from your day. They don't have to be dramatic, just real. I answered that email I was avoiding. I was kind to a stranger. I kept going even when it was hard. This trains your brain to search for progress instead of problems. It's not about fake positivity. It's about accurate perception. You are already stronger than your worst thoughts, but you have to remind yourself. Every thought sends a signal, and every signal sets off a chain reaction inside your body. So the question is, what chemistry are you choosing to live in? Because when your self-talk becomes more compassionate, more empowered, and more honest, you don't just feel better, you become better, biologically, emotionally, spiritually. And over time, that's how transformation becomes sustainable. Part 3. The brain doesn't distinguish between real and imagined. Here's something most people don't realize. Your brain doesn't know the difference between what's happening in the world and what's happening in your mind. If you imagine yourself failing, stumbling, or being judged, your body responds as if it's real. Your pulse quickens, your breathing shallows. Stress hormones flood your system. But if you visualize yourself succeeding, calmly navigating a tough conversation or achieving something meaningful, your brain also believes that is real, and it begins preparing you for it. This isn't woo-woo, it's neuroscience. Studies have shown that visualization, consciously picturing yourself doing something well, activates the same neural pathways as actually performing the task. That means the mental rehearsal is not just mental. It rewires how you behave, how you feel, and how you show up in the world. Athletes know this. Before a big race, they don't just stretch their muscles, they stretch their minds. They sit quietly, eyes closed, and see themselves crossing the finish line, staying strong through the hard moments, keeping their pace under pressure. And what happens? Their performance improves. Their confidence grows because their body has already lived the success before it physically happens. But this isn't just for Olympians. You can apply this same principle to your everyday life. You have a difficult conversation coming up? Visualize yourself entering the room grounded, speaking clearly, listening without overreacting. Watch yourself handle it with strength and grace. Your brain won't label it pretend. It will treat it like training. And when the moment comes, you'll feel more prepared because you are. Even the Stoics knew this. Marcus Aurelius, the philosopher emperor, practiced something similar. He called it premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of adversity. Each morning he would reflect, today I may meet with resistance, with rudeness, with injustice, not to make himself cynical, but to make himself ready. By rehearsing the day's emotional trials, he strengthened his calmness in advance. Now imagine doing that, but in reverse. What if you visualized not just what could go wrong, but also what could go right? What if you trained your mind to expect your own growth, to picture yourself responding with wisdom, to feel how it would be to believe in yourself? You'd begin to shift how your body reacts to life. You'd start to walk differently, speak more clearly, feel less thrown by fear. So here's something simple but powerful you can do. Each morning, before your to-do list takes over, take 5 quiet minutes, close your eyes, and create a mental movie. See yourself living the day with calm focus. Watch yourself saying no where you used to fold. Imagine meeting challenges with patience. Picture your goal, whatever it is, and see yourself moving toward it with steady energy. And when fear shows up, visualize yourself smiling at it and moving forward anyway. Because when the brain believes, the body follows. This isn't about pretending everything is perfect. It's about preparing your nervous system to support your courage rather than sabotage it. And the more vividly you rehearse your highest self, the more naturally you begin to live it. So ask yourself, what kind of life are you mentally rehearsing every day without even realizing it? Because whether you're conscious of it or not, you are training your brain. Let's make it intentional. Part 4, rewiring your brain through self-talk. Let me ask you something. What have you been repeatedly telling yourself, quietly in your own mind? Because whether you realize it or not, those words aren't just passing thoughts. They are laying down tracks in your brain. Over time, they become highways, well-worn neural pathways that determine how you see yourself, how you respond to challenges, and what kind of life you allow yourself to live. This is the power of neuroplasticity. Your brain is always changing, adapting, rewiring based on repeated input. And one of the most powerful inputs? Your self-talk. When you constantly say to yourself, I'm not good enough, or I always mess this up, your brain doesn't argue. It listens. It obeys. It starts building circuits that expect failure, that anticipate rejection, that shrink away from risk. But here's the hopeful part. The same mechanism that builds habits of fear can build habits of strength. When you intentionally repeat phrases like, I'm growing, I can figure this out, or I belong here, your brain begins to form new connections. It creates internal proof that these thoughts are real. Confidence is no longer something you fake. It becomes something you train. Let me share an example. Jake was a smart, talented young leader, but every time he stepped into a room of experienced professionals, a voice inside whispered, you don't belong here. They'll find out you're a fraud. Classic imposter syndrome. And it was holding him back from speaking up, taking initiative, and showing who he really was. But Jake decided to fight back, not by pretending, but by retraining. He started writing down the recurring self-doubts. Then beside each one, he wrote a counter thought rooted in truth. For I'm not experienced enough, he wrote, I bring a fresh perspective, and I'm here to learn. For I don't belong, he wrote, I was invited here. That means I do. Every morning, Jake read those new statements out loud, not once, 5 times, 10 times, until the new thoughts started to feel less awkward and more real. Until one day his brain stopped flinching when he raised his hand. Because now confidence wasn't a mask, it was a muscle. You can do the same. Start small, grab a notebook, and do a thought audit. What do you say to yourself when things go wrong? When you're tired? When you make a mistake? Then create your own counter thoughts. They don't have to be sugar-coated or overly positive. Just grounded, kind, supportive, like how you'd speak to a friend you deeply believe in. And here's the key. Repeat them daily. Not just when things are falling apart, but especially when things feel calm, because that's when your brain is most receptive to rewiring. The Stoics taught us that we are not disturbed by things, but by the views we take of them. That includes the views we take of ourselves. So ask yourself this. What inner script have you been rehearsing, and is it one that lifts you or limits you? You don't need a total personality transplant. You just need to choose better words more often and let your brain follow the path you decide. Part 5, Breaking Free from Old Patterns. Let's pause and be honest. How many times have you said something like, I've never been disciplined, or I'm just bad with money, or I always sabotage myself? As if it were a fact written in stone? Those words may feel like harmless observations, but they're not. They're stories, scripts. And the more often you tell them, the more they shape what you believe you can or cannot do. The truth is, most of us live inside narratives we didn't consciously choose. We inherit them from past experiences, failures, childhood patterns, or even casual comments we once believed. And without realizing it, we start treating them as identities. But here's the liberating truth. You are not your old story. Change doesn't begin by suddenly becoming someone else. It begins when you start telling a new story, even if you don't fully believe it yet. Take Emma, for example. For years, Emma believed she was simply bad with money. It was a line she repeated whenever bills piled up or when she impulsively bought things she didn't need. Her parents had struggled financially, so she thought maybe it was just her destiny too. But one day, she decided to try something different. She didn't overhaul her budget overnight. She didn't suddenly become a financial wizard. She simply started replacing that inner sentence with a new one. I'm learning how to be wise with money. Every morning she wrote it down. Every time she felt the urge to overspend, she paused and repeated it quietly. At first it felt fake, like she was pretending, but over time something shifted. That tiny reframing opened the door to small behaviors, checking her bank account, planning groceries, celebrating tiny savings. Slowly, the story started to become real. And isn't that how change works? Not as a dramatic act, but as a gentle rewriting of the lines we whisper to ourselves every day. The Stoic philosopher Seneca once said, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginning's end." You don't need to destroy who you were. You just need to stop feeding the version of you that no longer serves you. Here are a few gentle steps to begin breaking free. 1. Journal your inner patterns. At the end of each day, jot down what you've been telling yourself, especially in moments of stress, doubt, or frustration. These are often the stories running the show. Second, practice reframing. Take each limiting thought and ask, what's a more supportive version of this? Instead of "I always quit," try "I'm learning how to keep promises to myself." 3. Celebrate micro wins. Every small step counts. Paid a bill on time? Cooked instead of eating out? Acknowledge it. Progress thrives on recognition. 4. Treat setbacks as study, not shame. When you fall back into old habits, don't call it failure. Call it feedback. Learn, adjust, move forward. And remember, every time you catch yourself mid-thought and choose a different response, you're doing something powerful. You're interrupting the pattern. That moment may seem small, but that's how rewiring begins. So here's the question. What story about yourself are you ready to let go of? And what new one are you willing to start whispering, even if it's just a whisper for now? You're not broken. You're becoming. And becoming takes time, patience, and most of all, a kinder script. Part 6, the biology of self-talk. What if I told you that the thoughts you quietly repeat in your mind aren't just in your head? They're actually rewriting your body, your posture, your energy, even your hormones. Modern science and ancient philosophy agree on this. How you speak to yourself physically changes you. Think about it. When you wake up thinking, "I'm already behind," or "I can't do this," your shoulders slump, your breath shortens, your body goes into fight or flight mode. That's not a coincidence. It's cortisol, the stress hormone, flooding your system because your mind has sounded the alarm. But the opposite is also true. When your thoughts shift to "I've got this," or "one step at a time," your body opens. You breathe deeper, you feel lighter. That's dopamine and serotonin, neurochemicals linked to clarity, motivation, and calm, kicking in. It's not magic, it's biology. Take Alex, for instance. Alex was a high performer, always pushing, always striving, but he felt perpetually exhausted. No matter how much sleep or coffee he had, his energy was low, his back ached, and his anxiety simmered just beneath the surface. Eventually, he realized it wasn't his workload draining him. It was his inner critic, that relentless mental loop of, "You're not doing enough, and you should be better by now," was triggering a daily chemical cocktail of stress and burnout. So he tried something simple, but powerful. Every morning, he started with one phrase: I am allowed to grow at my own pace. And before important meetings, he added another. I bring clarity and calm into every room I enter. He adjusted his posture, shoulders back, chin lifted, not out of pride, but as a signal to his nervous system that he was safe and grounded. Within a week, something shifted. His body felt less tight. His energy returned, not because his life got easier, but because his self-talk got kinder. This is the biology of self-talk. And it's not about toxic positivity. It's about choosing thoughts that regulate you, not thoughts that deplete you. The Stoics, too, understood this connection. Epictetus said, "It's not things that upset us, but our opinions about them." He wasn't just talking about philosophy, he was pointing at physiology. If we can control our inner narrative, we gain control over how our bodies respond to life. So how do we practice this? Here are a few practical tools to bring the biology of calm into your daily life. 1. Start your day with grounding affirmations. Say them out loud while standing tall. Try, I am rooted. I am steady. I choose how I respond. Don't rush. Let your nervous system absorb the rhythm. 2. Notice your posture during stress. Are you curling in, holding your breath, clenching your jaw? Shift your body first, and then shift your mind. Motion influences emotion. 3. Visualize calm and strength. Before tough conversations or high-pressure moments, close your eyes and picture yourself walking in with presence and peace. The brain doesn't distinguish real from imagined, it reacts to both. 4. End your day with gratitude reflection. Cortisol drops when appreciation rises. Even 3 small acknowledgments. I handled that well. I paused instead of reacting. I stayed true to myself. Can reset your biochemistry overnight. You don't have to force yourself to feel amazing all the time. That's not the goal. The goal is to be aware, to understand that your thoughts have ripple effects, not just mentally, but physically. So here's something to sit with. What if your tiredness isn't just from doing too much, but from thinking in ways that exhaust your system? You don't need a new life to feel more alive. Sometimes you just need a new way of speaking to the one you already have. Start there. Part 7. Reprogramming Neural Pathways. Here's something most people never realize. Every thought you think is laying down a trail in your brain. Like footsteps through tall grass, the more you repeat a thought, the clearer that path becomes, and the easier it is for your mind to return to it tomorrow. This is how habits are formed, not just physical ones, but mental ones. These are your neural pathways. If you keep thinking, I always mess this up, your brain wires itself to expect failure. But if you replace it, even slowly, with I'm improving every time I try, your brain starts to rewire toward growth. That's not just philosophy, it's neuroscience. And the beauty is, you get to be the architect. Let's talk about Mia. For most of her life, Mia had a fear of public speaking. Even the thought of raising her hand in a meeting sent a wave of anxiety through her chest. Her brain had built a pathway. Public speaking equals danger, equals silence is safer. That path was well worn, automatic. But Mia wanted more for herself. She didn't want to stay quiet. So she did something radical. She began practicing a new internal story. Every morning she stood in front of the mirror and said, my voice is strong. My ideas matter. I speak with calm and clarity. She visualized herself walking confidently into meetings, offering input without trembling. And when doubt crept in, as it always does, she didn't shame herself. She simply reminded her brain, this is the new trail we're walking now. At first it felt awkward, fake even, But over time, something shifted. Her voice stopped shaking. Her breath slowed. The same rooms that once made her shrink became stages where she could stand with quiet authority. That's the power of rewiring your neural pathways. And it's available to you, too. Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, once said, "The soul is dyed by the color of its thoughts." He understood that we become what we repeatedly think, that our inner world, shaped by daily thoughts, eventually becomes our outer behavior. He may not have had fMRI scans, but he deeply understood neuroplasticity before it had a name. So how do you begin reprogramming your own mind? It's a simple formula, nothing flashy, but deeply powerful. 1. Affirmations. Choose a few grounding phrases that reflect the identity you're building. Keep them present tense. Keep them kind. Say them out loud and say them like you mean it, even if you don't yet. 2. Visualization. Picture the version of you who already lives those affirmations. What do they feel like walking into a room? How do they respond to challenge? Your brain doesn't need real experience to begin rewiring. It just needs repetition. 3. Reframing. Catch negative thoughts when they arise and gently reframe them. Not with forced optimism, but with curiosity. Instead of "I am terrible at this," it's "What am I still learning here?" The key word here is repetition. That's what strengthens the new trail. Patience is the companion to repetition. Neural pathways don't change overnight, but they do change. Slowly, quietly, and then all at once. You'll know it's working when what used to scare you no longer holds power. When your inner voice starts becoming your inner ally, not your critic. So ask yourself, what old pathway have I been walking simply out of habit? And what new trail am I ready to carve? Because your brain is always listening. And with each thought, you're training it to either keep you small or help you grow. Speak wisely. Part 8. The science of neuroplasticity. Let me ask you something. Have you ever felt stuck in a version of yourself that no longer fits who you want to be? Maybe it's the voice that says, "I've always been like this," or "Change is just too hard at this point." If that's been playing in your mind, I want you to pause and really hear this. Your brain is not a finished sculpture. It's a living, breathing work in progress. One that can reshape itself at any age through conscious repetition and intention. This isn't a motivational slogan. It's science. It's called neuroplasticity, and it's one of the most hopeful discoveries in modern psychology. Neuroplasticity means your brain can literally rewire itself based on what you repeatedly think, say, and do. It's how you formed your current habits, beliefs, and behaviors. And it's also how you can unlearn what no longer serves you and relearn what helps you thrive. Let me introduce you to Daniel. Daniel had always struggled with self-confidence. Growing up, he internalized the message that he was too quiet, not enough, not leadership material. By the time he was in his 30s, this had become his internal narrative, and he believed it. Promotions passed him by. He avoided speaking up in meetings, and yet deep down, he knew he was capable of more. But here's where his story shifts. One day, tired of his own self-doubt, Daniel made a decision, not to fake confidence, but to build it from the inside out. Every morning for 90 days, he practiced 5 specific affirmations out loud. He visualized himself calmly contributing to meetings. He journaled moments where he handled things well, no matter how small. And most importantly, he kept going, even when the old voice crept back in. The change didn't happen in a week, but it did happen. 3 months later, Daniel didn't just feel different, he acted different. He volunteered to lead a presentation. He got feedback that he came across as calm, grounded, and thoughtful. His brain, once wired for hesitation, had slowly learned a new way of being, one based on presence and inner steadiness. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, captured this truth long before neuroscience caught up. He said, "Our life is what our thoughts make it." That wasn't poetic fluff. It was practical philosophy. Marcus understood that what you feed your mind is what you eventually see in your life. So how can you apply the science of neuroplasticity to your own transformation? Here are 4 daily tools that are simple but powerful. 1. Consistent affirmations. Choose words that reflect who you're becoming, not who you've been. Repeat them with intention. It's not about lying to yourself. It's about giving your brain a new script to follow. 2. Mindfulness practice. Train your awareness to notice when old patterns resurface. When you catch a self-critical thought, gently redirect it. Awareness is the first step to change. 3. Visualization. Spend a few quiet minutes daily imagining yourself living the change. What does confidence feel like in your body? What does calm sound like in your voice? Your brain doesn't need reality to start rewiring. It needs repetition. 4. Patience through setbacks. This is not a straight line. Some days the old you might feel louder. That's okay. Progress is built in moments when you show up anyway, and try again. You're not stuck, not broken, not too late. Your mind is far more flexible than you've been led to believe. So take a breath and ask yourself, what if this version of you is not final, but just transitional? What if you could gently teach your brain a new language, one of courage, compassion, and possibility? Because every thought you repeat is a step in that direction. Part 9. Your energetic signature is affected by self-talk. Have you ever walked into a room and instantly felt the energy of someone before they even said a word? Maybe it was a sense of peace or tension or quiet confidence. That invisible force you felt, that's their energetic signature. And whether we realize it or not, we're all broadcasting one. Here's the surprising part. The tone of your inner dialogue directly shapes the energy you project into the world. The way you speak to yourself becomes the vibe you send out. And people feel it, even before you speak. Let's take Chris, for example. Chris had a habit of waking up each day with a sense of dread. The first thoughts that ran through his mind were automatic. This day is already going to be a mess. I'm behind again. What's the point? His shoulders slumped, his tone was flat, and even though he was polite on the outside, co-workers often kept their distance. Something about his energy felt heavy. Then one day, after hitting what felt like emotional rock bottom, Chris decided to experiment. For 30 days, he started his mornings differently. Instead of letting his mind spiral, he took 3 minutes to say 5 simple affirmations. Today is a fresh start. I bring calm to what I touch. I speak to myself kindly. I have what I need to handle what comes. I am becoming who I'm meant to be. At first it felt awkward, forced even, but slowly something shifted. People started asking Chris what changed. He wasn't louder or more outgoing, but he was lighter. He smiled more. He held eye contact. He began attracting opportunities, deeper conversations, and even felt more clarity when making decisions. It was subtle, but powerful. His energy had changed. This is not magic. It's mindset. The Stoics understood this well. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them." That means our perception, not our circumstances, shapes our emotional state. And our emotional state becomes the invisible force we carry into every interaction. So if you've ever felt like people react to you in ways you don't understand, or if you feel unseen or misunderstood, It might not be your words, it might be your inner energy. The good news? You can shift it. And you don't need years of training to begin. Just consistent, intentional self-talk that aligns with who you want to be, not who your fear says you are. Here are a few practices to begin realigning your energetic signature. 1. Set a morning intention. Before you check your phone or get pulled into noise, take one quiet minute and ask, what energy do I want to bring into this day? Calm, grounded, grateful? Decide on it and return to it when stress creeps in. 2. Speak in energy-aligned affirmations. Choose affirmations that reflect not just what you want to do, but how you want to feel. For example, I bring peace wherever I go. My presence is steady and warm. I radiate quiet confidence. You're not pretending, you're programming. 3. Gratitude as a frequency reset. When your inner talk gets negative, gratitude is your reset button. Try this. Name 3 things you're grateful for, but not just in your head. Feel them. Let your body soften. This instantly lifts the energy you project. 4. Visualize confidence before you enter a room. Whether it's a meeting, a social event, or even just a video call, take 30 seconds beforehand to visualize yourself as calm, confident, and open. Let your posture rise. Let your breath deepen. What starts in the mind moves through the body, and others will feel it too. Remember, your energetic signature is not fixed, it's fluid. And every kind word you say to yourself is a brushstroke on the canvas of how you move through the world. So the next time you feel off, don't just ask, what's wrong with them? Pause and ask gently, what am I saying to myself right now? What energy am I bringing into this moment? Because when you change the way you speak to yourself, you change the way the world speaks back. And coming up next, we'll tie everything together in a powerful 3-day challenge that puts this inner transformation into action. You won't want to miss it. Part 10, the 3-day self-talk challenge. Let's be honest, most of us talk to ourselves in ways we would never talk to a friend. We criticize, doubt, minimize our efforts. But what if, for just 3 days, you chose a different approach? What if, for 72 hours, you spoke to yourself with the same kindness, encouragement, and respect you'd give someone you deeply care about? This is your invitation to a simple but powerful experiment, the 3-day self-talk challenge. Now, you might be wondering, can 3 days really make a difference? Science says yes. The brain is constantly rewiring itself. And even brief windows of intentional thought, when practiced consistently, can create measurable shifts in emotion, motivation, and clarity. Take Sarah, for example. For months, she felt stuck. Each morning, her first thoughts were soaked in self-doubt. I'm behind. I'm failing. I'll never catch up. And each night, she'd go to bed with a weight on her chest, wondering why nothing was changing. But then, almost out of frustration, Sarah decided to try this challenge. Just 3 days. No pressure, just curiosity. She wrote down 2 affirmations and placed them next to her mirror. I am capable. I am strong. Each morning she repeated them out loud, quietly but with presence. Whenever a negative thought crept in, she paused and asked, is this helpful? Can I say something truer, kinder? And at night she reflected on one thing she said to herself that day that felt empowering, even if it was small. By day 3, Sarah felt different. She hadn't fixed everything in her life, but her energy shifted, her tone softened, her choices improved, and perhaps most importantly, her relationship with herself began to heal. Here's how you can start your own 3-day self-talk challenge, beginning tomorrow morning. Morning, set the tone. Before the world speaks to you, speak to yourself. Choose 1 to 3 affirmations that reflect the qualities you want to embody. For example, I am grounded in clarity. I choose calm over chaos. I trust myself to handle what comes. Say them out loud, not because they're magic words, but because repetition rewires reality. You're planting seeds for how you'll show up that day. During the day, redirect the voice. Whenever you catch a negative or discouraging thought, pause. Don't argue with it. Just replace it with something more aligned with who you're becoming. Instead of, I'm a mess, say, I'm learning to handle more with grace. Instead of, I always mess this up, try, this is just one moment. I can improve. It's not about fake positivity. It's about accurate, compassionate truth-telling. Night, reflect, and reinforce. Before bed, take 1 minute to reflect. What was one positive thing I said to myself today? Write it down. Speak it softly. Let your nervous system register it. You're telling your brain what to carry forward. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. And as Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. When you start mastering the way you speak to yourself, you stop being pushed around by every thought, every emotion, or every external challenge. You become a steady voice inside your own life. So will you try it? Just 3 days. No need to overhaul your world. Just begin with the next sentence you say to yourself. Make it count. And as we wrap this video, here's your gentle reminder. You are not broken. You are becoming. And how you speak to yourself is the path forward. Speak gently, live powerfully. Here's something we often forget. The most powerful voice in your life isn't out there. It's the one in your own head. That voice, the one narrating your day, the one that reacts when you make a mistake, when you look in the mirror, when you sit with your dreams or doubts. It shapes everything. It shapes how you feel, what you believe you're capable of, and even how your body responds to stress and joy. And that voice, it's not fixed. It's trainable, moldable, and remarkably powerful. This entire journey, through ancient Stoic wisdom, through the science of neuroplasticity, through real-life stories, has been leading us here to a truth both simple and profound. Change your self-talk and you change your life. Now, I'm not saying that just being positive will erase hardship. Life still throws curveballs. But when you change the way you speak to yourself, you stop being your own enemy and become your greatest ally. You stop draining your energy with inner criticism and instead fuel your growth with calm confidence. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The happiness of your life depends on the quality of your thoughts." He wasn't exaggerating. Modern neuroscience now proves what the Stoics intuited centuries ago. Your thoughts affect your biology. They affect your posture, your breath, your hormones, your choices, and eventually your future. So if you want to feel stronger, speak to yourself with strength. If you want more clarity, speak to yourself with honesty and compassion. If you want peace, speak gently to the parts of you that are still afraid. Because here's the good news. You don't have to wait for life to change before you feel better. You just have to change the conversation you're having with yourself. And that change, it doesn't start next year or next month or even next week. It starts now with the next sentence you say to yourself. So here's your invitation. Try the 3-day self-talk challenge. 3 days of conscious, kind, and powerful self-talk. 3 days of noticing your words, redirecting the harsh ones, and choosing better ones. 3 days of speaking as if your future depends on it, because it does. And if you try it, I'd love to hear how it goes. Comment below with one positive thing you told yourself today. Share this video with someone who needs a reminder of their inner power. And if this message speaks to you, subscribe. There's so much more coming to support your inner transformation. Your voice is your tool. Use it wisely. Speak like someone who matters because you do.